a workforce development librarian with the Washington State Library. We welcome questions from constituents to add to this discussion. So if you're watching this live on Facebook and have a question, please ask it in the comments section of this video and we'll get to your questions as well. I'm now going to hand it over to Congressman Heck and then Ms. Iaukea for opening comments. Congressman Heck.
Thank you, Lauren, very much. Thank you all for joining us. The 26th episode in our continuing series of teletown halls on our state's response to COVID-19, and the 6th episode in our continuing series related specifically to the educational response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we have today with us, as indicated, Elizabeth Iaukea, very unusual. She is the workforce development librarian for the Washington State Library. I have to admit, I have never heard of that job before. It's, as I am informed, very unusual and unique, an innovation which can come only from the petri dish of an innovation known as Washington State. So, Elizabeth, I want to start by asking you, what the heck is a workforce development librarian, and how does all of this fit into helping people deal with the pandemic?
Okay, that's more than one question. So I got into this because, well, I've been a librarian my entire career. I actually started working in libraries when I was 12 as a volunteer, growing up in Florida. And the only time I've ever worked professionally out of libraries was with the Workforce Development Council. So what attracted me to the career was the ability to do lots of different things in this field. Librarians do so many different things. We are constantly responding to our community and the growing, changing needs of our community. And so having been associated with libraries from a very young age, I saw that, and I saw the ability to, or the opportunity to do a lot of different things through my career. You know, there are statistics out there about how many different careers people will have during their lifetimes. And I thought, well, this is one area that I can go into that I can have that chance to change and do things. I couldn't think of anything that I wanted to do for the rest of my life, but I could think of something I wanted to do for the next couple of years. You know, I was 18. And so this is a job, a title, a role that didn't exist when I graduated from library school in 1999. And prior to coming back to the state library in 2015, I was working for the Workforce Development Council in Tacoma Pierce County. So I kind of had that workforce development angle, had always been interested in the ability to change careers, do different things. I never really knew what I wanted to do when I grew up, but I knew I was very interested in change and things like that. So I came to this job actually managing the Microsoft Imagine Academy, which is what kind of got the state library into the area of workforce development. And I was very intrigued by the opportunity to basically marry the resources and the populations and the access and the philosophy of libraries to workforce development. And so my job has changed over the years. I've had 4 or 5 different job titles since I started back with the state library in 2015. But basically what I do is connect people. I connect libraries to opportunities to support job seekers and small business in their communities. And I don't remember the second part of your question.
So let's put flesh on the bones of what you just said. You connect job seekers and businesses to resources. So operationalize that. Help somebody understand that in concrete terms, not just conceptual terms.
Right. And so a lot of that I don't personally do. I support libraries in more of a consulting role to help them understand the opportunities and to help them make connections with their workforce development systems. I mean, I think when people think of workforce development as a system, they think of employment security, they think of WorkSource. They don't really understand that it's super broad. And you know, it includes our community and technical colleges, it includes higher ed, it includes OSPI. I mean, people grow up and are going to need to work, most of us. So it's a very broad system. We're very lucky in Washington that it is so broad and so inclusive, and that the workforce board is open to hearing new ideas and entertaining different ways of doing things. And so we're kind of seen as innovators nationally around workforce development. But what I do day to day, I do have a public facing side, which is a little bit unusual in this role at the State Library, in that I do still manage the evolution of what's become Microsoft Imagine Academy. So
Well,
we've been funded.
time out, Elizabeth. I don't have any idea what that is. I suspect most
I
people
was
watch.
just going to get there. So we've been funded for the last biennium for this project that basically takes an online learning platform to learn digital skills, right? So this funding was originally allocated during the recession, when I think people first started to realize that we had a digital skills gap in our state and in our country. So there were jobs that previously didn't require any use of a computer, any use of an electronic device. And suddenly people were, maybe it was just being asked to fill out a timesheet in Excel or communicate with their team via email. So we engaged in this amazing partnership with Microsoft and basically to help bridge the digital divide and bring digital skills. And it was, I feel like, very innovative of our state legislature to do this, because they realized that a very effective way to reach people and really democratize the opportunity, especially in neighborhoods and in small rural communities, was to do that through libraries. So we have over 300 libraries in the state, much more kind of workforce development centers. And so we're embedded in local neighborhoods and in small rural communities. But this project basically is an opportunity to provide at the state level resources to support job seekers. So it pays for now access to the very esteemed lynda.com, LinkedIn Learning. So Microsoft bought that company a number of years ago. So we can provide access to this platform that, if you were to buy it retail, it costs $40 a month, close to $500 a year. What we pay for it to put it in the hands of all Washingtonians is right now, with the numbers we have, are less than $10 a year. So huge cost savings to the state, and also opens the doors to a lot of people who wouldn't normally have access to it. So I support libraries to involve their communities in that. I manage that vendor relationship. And more importantly, I feel like, that's super important. But I also manage our certification program statewide.
Let's stop. We're going to keep digging here until
that's
even
good. I love it.
understand.
I love it. I can talk forever, but
when you say you support libraries, does that mean you give them the money to do this, or you give them the training to provide this software platform to their patrons? What does that mean? You support libraries.
We buy at the state level. So it's a power in numbers. We buy for the entire state. So we have tiny libraries in different parts of the state that might be open less than 20 hours a week. There's no state funding for libraries in Washington. It's all local. So if it's a very small community and they don't necessarily recognize the importance of the library, they have very, very limited budgets, and providing access to Lynda is just not something they would ever be able to afford. So by purchasing at the state level, we pay one bill and we provide access to the entire state. I do provide training. I support our vendors to train our librarians to use the product, to know enough about it to be able to promote it to their communities. And we do limited grants. We've, in the past years, as we've had a little bit of variance money toward the end of the year, we've updated libraries technology. I'll tell you what, when I first started this job in 2015, I was going out to communities and still seeing computers that had been granted by the Gates Foundation in 2001. There's just a huge need. So we work with not only public libraries primarily, but also with tribal libraries and tribes. And also provide the opportunity to community and technical colleges. It's awesome to take a class in office products. It's the premier productivity suite across the globe. But it's another thing to get Microsoft certified, right? So if you're trying to get a job, people say, oh yeah, I'm really good with Office, but yet, how do you really prove that to an employer? How does the employer really know that they're hiring with those skills? And so certification, really the part of my program that I'm most enthusiastic about, validates those skills to employers. So employers hire with confidence, they know their employees are efficient, they're not losing productivity. And then it really stands out on a job seeker's resume. And right now with unemployment so high, it's super important. I mean, I don't even need to speak to that.
So when you say certification, Elizabeth, that means that somebody at the library can take one of these certification courses, and you are the third-party validator that they have indeed met the requisite skill and training levels? Is that
So
what
as people from the community come into the libraries or, at this point, contact us virtually and say that they're interested in certification, we look at it in 3 steps. So learn, practice, certify. So we provide the learning resources, lynda.com, some other products that are more Microsoft based and some other things. We provide access to practice exams, and we pay for the certification voucher. So this is open to any Washingtonian. It is the only program in the country. I'll tell you what, I have a huge community of practice nationally, and states are envious of this opportunity. People can't even believe it, that it's completely free. Because these certifications, if you were to, need the full pathway. So say you're studying for the Microsoft Office Word Specialist exam, if you can do it in a year, you or do it in a month, you spend $40 with access to Lynda. You're going to pay another $70 for access to the practice test to make sure that you're going to pass on the first opportunity. And then you're going to have to buy an exam voucher from the company who manages this. I mean, it's a proctored exam that library staff give. Right now, we're able to do them online, but you're looking at hundreds of dollars. And even to think about, if somebody wanted access to Lynda, they have to have a credit card. There are
Lynda.
Lynda is an online learning platform. It is the most well-respected, recognized. If you have a LinkedIn profile, you'll see that they're always trying to sell you LinkedIn Learning. With the purchase from Microsoft, they're going through some rebranding. So you'll see it as LinkedIn Learning. What it's going to be is transitioning from Lynda, which had a lot of name recognition, now to LinkedIn Learning Library is what it's going to be known as. And you can learn anything from computer skills. You can learn how to work at home effectively, how to manage teams remotely, how to manage stress. I had a colleague ask me about keyboarding, right? So keyboarding, we think about typing, right? And there is a course, it's 40 minutes long, free access with a library card from any Washington Public Library. But what has a lot of hits for keyboarding when you do a search on LinkedIn Learning is learning to play the piano. So a huge range of skills.
How many certifications are available at your library as a result of you providing this service for which people do not have to pay? Are we talking 12? Are we talking 800?
There are 7 different programs, but within each of the program, there are multiple exams and certifications. So it totals to over 40 and more being added. So the Microsoft certifications alone, Microsoft Office, you can certify in Word, Access, PowerPoint, the Excel, the whole suite. Each one has a separate test that you take and get certified in. In addition, there's Microsoft Technology Associate, which covers 3 different areas, networking fundamentals, so pretty much platform agnostic. So it provides a pathway there for people who are interested in careers in IT to kind of get their feet wet, an on-ramp, and then from there they might go on to a community and technical college in our state. We also offer certification in the Adobe suite. I've had people from my cycling group, I can't get a job, I'm not being, gotten any attention from employers, and I'm, like, well, get Adobe certified, prove to an employer that you have those skills. We also offer QuickBooks, both desktop and online, and a new software that most people haven't heard of is called Unity, which is what a lot of virtual reality platforms are based on.
Do you track usage? And if so, has it increased during
It has. Oh my gosh.
COVID-19 recession?
It's been huge. I mean, we have libraries and colleges participating across the state. So, if somebody takes a course from their local community college in Microsoft Word, they have the opportunity to get certification at no additional charge. So that's something that would have cost probably another $50, $75 in student fees. But they can contact any public library in the state. If it's a small library with limited resources, they'll probably refer them to me. My service alone from COVID and the opportunity to proctor online is really new. Normally, they would have to physically go into a library or college certification center. So they'd be paying actually not only for the exam voucher, which would run $100 average per test, but also a proctoring fee. So none of the libraries charge a proctoring fee. And because it's available online, I've gone from maybe 4 or 5 tests a month at my center. Now, Seattle Public, King County, Pierce County, they have amazing certification programs.
You don't keep track of the.
We do. I don't have the numbers right up. I'm not a numbers person. But yeah, we've done almost as many certifications from January to the end of August as we did all of last year. And word's getting out, people are getting recognition on this. I hear from patrons that have gone through multiple exams, have never had an opportunity to even be noticed by an employer. They're adding the fact that they are certified to their LinkedIn profiles, and they have recruiters contacting them, people actively seeking them for employment. So, and the beautiful thing about this is that the skills that employers really want are those soft skills, right? And so if somebody's accessed the learning materials through their library, if they're self-taught, if they've gone through the time to do the practice test, if they've taken the initiative to schedule an exam and take an exam, that person not only has the skills that the certification points to, but they also have good time management. They're a self-directed learner. It just speaks to so much more. I think the power of this is so great. And, I didn't have an opportunity to hear Chris Reichtel speak with you a couple of days ago, but he's talked about that people learn a lot of different ways and a lot of different modalities. And I think that COVID has really brought recognition to that. We're being forced to be creative and validate learning in different formats that we haven't done before. And that's what libraries do. We're the people's university. We're open to everyone, we're welcoming. I saw an article in the New York Times yesterday. We are one of the most trusted institutions in the country. And so people are comfortable coming to us and just saying, I'm curious about this. I want to learn about this. I took a call 2 hours ago from somebody who basically was laid off from something in the airline industry and was interested in obtaining certification to career change. And I've gotten that so many times. It's incredible, the demand for this now. People are really recognizing that, some of the work that had been living wage maybe is just not there anymore. I had people early on contact me from the hospitality industry and just say, look, the writing's on the wall. I got to do something different. And I'm going to use this time and the extra money from the government on UI to, take some of the stress off of being able to pay the bills to skill up. And that's what we're seeing. And that's what libraries offer. It's free. It's taxpayer funded. And like I said, for really a small amount of money in this state, we're so lucky that that we have this. Because
so Elizabeth, you've been at this about 5 years since in your latest iteration at the State Library. Can you think of an instance of an individual whose personal story became known to you where accessing this made a specific difference in their trajectory? And if so, can you share it?
There have been numerous over the years.
I'm only looking for one.
Okay. Well, the person that sticks with me most is a gentleman early on. I mean, we do validate that people are from our state. You know, people have been contacting the libraries to take advantage of this opportunity because it's online. We can't tell where people are coming from. But we do, you know, ask, you know, zip code and things like that. We try not to collect too much personal information. But this gentleman shared with me that he had moved here from Florida 5 years ago to
No
find
wonder
a
you
career.
remember it.
I know. It's ironic that we both came from Florida.
Yeah, just a coincidence,
It's
Elizabeth.
complete
Just a coincidence.
coincidence. To pursue a career in IT and just hasn't really been able to break in the way that they wanted to. You know, there are people who are just day to day working 2 and 3 jobs and, you know, taking public transportation, having to wait at bus stops. I mean, it's so time consuming to not be resourced in this country. And so this person, and to take these certification exams, to purchase the high quality learning resources that are going to let them hone in on getting the skills would just be out of reach for other people. So this gentleman, you know, shared his story with me, and like I said, moved here from 5 years ago, trying to support his family, trying to make ends meet, and was just amazed and stunned that the resources were available and completely free. And has, I think, taken advantage more of this program than any other person I know. He went through all the Office certifications. He's done multiple Microsoft technology certifications. He's done Unity, and he has, you know, put all that stuff on his LinkedIn profile, you know, maximized the opportunity, and is getting recognition, you know, recruiters contacting him. He's getting interviews. I mean, think about it. With everybody being online, the need for people in IT right now to support all these workers is huge. So IT careers are huge, but also the need for digital literacy. You know, people who didn't have to make use of tools like this are suddenly, you know, this is our day to day. You know, it's learn or be left behind. And yeah, it's been huge.
I want to stop right
So
here.
gratifying.
I see where Lauren's light has come on. Lauren, did you have something that you wanted to interject or ask, or am I misreading the light?
I think misreading the light. We are still on constituent questions.
Okay, I'm going to apologize for that. Elizabeth, back to you. Here's my question.
Yes. Okay.
So somebody's watching, they want to take the first step to explore what might be available. Specifically and concretely, what do they do?
They get a library card, dig out their library card if they don't already have a library card for their local public library. As I said, we've provided it to every community in the state. If they live in one of those rare pockets where they don't have access to public library service, they can get a library card from the Washington State Library, and basically get access to LinkedIn Learning. Courses.
Elizabeth, we're going to break this down
Okay.
in very understandable chunks.
Okay.
I go to my local library, I get a library card, I sit down at the computer.
Online. Libraries aren't open.
Okay. Walk us through it one
They go
step
to
at a time.
They do an internet search for public library, and because of the power of technology, it's probably going to find the one closest to them. They go on their library's website. If they already have a library card, they go to online learning, databases. It's different at every library where they put this resource, but they're looking right now for lynda.com.
Linda.
Lynda, Lynda.
I was kidding. I really knew what it was earlier.
That's okay.
So that they're doing is they're going to the local library site and they're on a search for lynda.com.
Lynda.com, and that's the learning resource, right? That's going to help them, you know, go from start to finish. We do have a number of resources that libraries promote around basic computer skills if they're really just getting started. There are some great resources out there. We are about to purchase statewide access to a product called North Star Digital Literacy. It's an amazing product. A lot of our community partners already utilize it. Our goal in this coming biennium is really to focus on equity in a very serious way. And I believe completely, and nobody's been able to argue me down from this, that if we're really going to reach the populations that need it the most and are hardest to access, we need to utilize the power of community organizations. So Goodwill has been a huge partner. They're, the bigger cities have a lot of resources, but organizations who are working specifically with veterans, specifically with people who are formerly incarcerated. So organizations that already know those audiences, they speak their language, they have relationships. We want to make sure that we just take the cost out of it. It's a very inexpensive platform. It's actually an opportunity that anybody could just go to their website and take the assessments and take the online learning, but to actually have a proctored experience where they come out with an official certification that they can put on LinkedIn, put on a resume, show to an employer. That's powerful, and they'll be able to reach that, like I said, from any public library. But if they're starting with some skills and they just want to explore, Lynda is the place to go, LinkedIn Learning. From there, they would, contact library staff to find out if the local library offers certification. At that point, they'd probably get a practice test code, which we also fund. That gives them experience with the actual certification exam itself. Timed, the interface looks exactly the same. And then when they've reached proficiency with that tool, we know that they're probably going to pass the test on the first go around. So at that point, we
the
would
bottom
schedule a
line
test.
the bottom line is if you're looking for work or looking to change a career and skill certification is a part of that, go to your local library online now, since they are closed, and find lynda.com. It will walk you through the exploration of what opportunities might be available to you. I want to switch subjects.
Okay, I just want to say one thing. Is that okay? If they get stuck at any point in this process, ask a librarian. Just contact their local library and say, I got stuck at this point. Can you help me get to the next place? And that's the power of having not just the resources, but the library staff who are trained, they're patient. This is what they love to do. They love to connect people with the resources. You can hear my passion for it, and it's what we do. Okay, now you can change subjects.
Thank you very much for your permission, Elizabeth. All this time I thought it was my town hall, but no.
Sorry.
It's all right. Okay, so libraries have changed. Libraries have come under pretty significant financial stress. The role of the library has changed as the role of the hard copy book, like on the bookshelf behind me, has changed as we've become a more digital world. I know for a fact that libraries are under a lot of stress for digital circulation because they frankly don't get that good a deal as it relates to hard copy books. And you mentioned specifically that what we're doing here is an innovation compared to other states. In fact, libraries are having to innovate, are they not, as a consequence of how the world of books has changed over time?
Certainly, but that didn't just start with COVID. We've always been responsive to community needs. Like I said, that's what attracted me to this career 20 years ago, was knowing that libraries would be that community institution that are going to get by in a shoestring budget, make it work, and be very in tune with listening, with asking, and trying to figure out what their communities need so they can support people. And like I said, especially people who wouldn't have any other place to go for these resources, frankly. But also, we're the ultimate co-op. So, buying at the state level, buying at, just consortium levels is really powerful. And also, having an agency that can handle that kind of overhead of dealing with vendors and things like that. Yeah, it's true. People are turning more to digital, but the thing is, the Gates Foundation firmly established libraries as the place in the community to go to learn about new technology, to access new technology, to have those digital resources back in the late 90s. Another project that the Washington State Library supports, I mean, you mentioned access to digital books, which I will mention. Just physical, we do curbside service. Most of the libraries are offering that, so you can search their catalog, put a hold on a book, and come by and pick it up, just like your takeaway food. But the digital has really increased. And so a lot of the bigger library systems have agreements with the vendors directly to provide, digital copies of the books. But we also have this amazing resource, again, to level the playing field, from the really well-resourced libraries and their communities to the not so well-resourced. It's called the Washington Anytime Library. So if you're in a really small community, if you're in Puyallup, you're going through that cooperative, which is managed and by the state library and funded from some of our federal monies.
So let's plumb just a little bit this issue of digital consumption, because I think it's so important to the future of libraries, and where frankly I believe a change is needed. And I'd invite you to comment or opine yourself on this. If I understand this correctly, when libraries buy a book, a hard copy book like on the shelf behind me, it's theirs forever, and they can check it out as many times as that book holds up. Not true of digital books.
No.
They are limited as to the number of times that they can be circulated before they have to re-up the fee. As a consequence, in fact, digital books are ending up costing more than hard copy books on a per usage basis. Does this not mean, Elizabeth, we got to figure out a way for libraries to get a better deal with publishers, or they're getting squeezed down? And some people would suggest that publishers do this purposefully because they would rather drive people to the purchase directly from them, or of either hard copy or digital, and they don't want libraries to succeed. Comment on either.
That's a huge question to introduce with only 29 minutes left. Libraries are getting pretty savvy about this, I have to say. We just lost our most rock starist of state librarians, Sydney Aden. We lost her to the University of Washington just last month. She had a very varied career, but part of it was she was early on in Amazon, so she knew the corporate world, and was willing to stand up and gather people together to libraries and library consortiums and state libraries to go to the publishers as one unit and say, look, you can't keep doing it this way. This is not my area of expertise, I'm going to say that. And again, I'm not a numbers person. So yeah, the cost is exponentially higher. You think about it, you're on Amazon and you can get a Kindle copy for $10. I mean, these things, they never cost that much. And yeah, the price has been driven up. But there's research out there, there's data out there, and Cindy was a large part of gathering this to show that, yeah, for some people, it does drive them to that accessing digital copies actually does increase physical book buying. So, yeah, I mean, it's another innovation that has to happen, and we have to find a way between the public, the publicly funded like libraries, and the private to come to an equitable agreement. I mean, ultimately, I hope and I believe that those publishers want a literate, book-loving, reading, information-seeking society, and that they're going to help make that work.
But not so far. Pardon me interjecting my editorializing.
There've been some gains in the last year or two. There have been, and the LinkedIn Learning example is a good one. Last year, after we had been purchased this statewide, we're the second state to purchase a statewide agreement to LinkedIn Learning to be able to provide it to all of our state's communities, regardless of their resource level. And they came to us and said, look, we're going to migrate over to be more integrated with LinkedIn, and anybody who accesses Linda is going to have a LinkedIn profile. And the library community rose up and said, we're not okay with you gathering our patrons' data in this way, and stood up as one group. And I'm proud to say that Washington was a leader in that area. We were a convener. to bring libraries together to be able to compare notes and be able to speak as one voice. And so we are seeing that we're able to do that. We are able to drive it. And so they pulled back from that, and we they're no longer moving in that direction. So everybody's personal data is going to be protected when they access that platform. That was super important to libraries. I don't know if people really understand that about libraries, that we are very much about privacy and open access. And heaven forbid if the FBI comes to a library and says that they want to see everybody who's checked out Mein Kampf, which happened in a Washington library years ago, that librarian would say, I'm not going to share that with you.
Good. And good on you for fighting back against
We're all about privacy.
People that have not just the privacy issue, but that as well. Also, the equilibrium or the balance between the power and the finances of the publishers versus those of the libraries. We need you to do that, and I hope that you will continue to do that, just as I hope you will continue to provide these workforce development opportunities for people. Thank you, Elizabeth, very, very much for being here. This is absolutely not a job title I had ever heard of before we began setting this 7-part series up. Thank you for what you do every day.
Thank you.
And thank you to the viewers, giving of your most precious commodity, your time. We invite you back for the 6th in the 7-part series next Tuesday, September 8th at 5 p.m. Yet another component of the delivery of education to the public during COVID-19. Kurt Schultz, the president of Washington State University, will be our guest. Go Cougars. Again, that's Tuesday, September 8th at 5 p.m. Thank you again very much for being here. Mask up, wash your hands, maintain social distance, be safe, be well, and thank you.